Welcome, atheists, agnostics, skeptics, secular humanists, whatever you like to call yourself, you are welcome here. At Seattle Atheist Church, we call ourselves an atheist church because you will never hear anything supernatural talked about from the podium. Our church was founded on the principles of scientific naturalism and secular ethics. Truth claims are attempted here. We stand ready to revise our thinking in light of new information. We attempt to be excellent to other conscious beings, and we believe in good, because good works in non-mysterious ways. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're looking forward to today's talk. I just wanted to touch base with you a little bit. We had the board meeting this morning, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of our financial goals. So currently we have 15 people donating $5 a week. We're breaking even on sort of the things the way they are. So that's about $20 a month. We're breaking even on how things are now. We need 17 people donating $5 to move to the room 209, which is the larger room. We're hoping to do that in the new year because we are also hoping to have children's church there. And if we would like to move to 2 hours, so we have a longer discussion period, then we would like to have 25 people donating $5 a week. And the way that this can happen is, you probably don't know that Jack, who is sitting right there, he's got the Foursquare credit card machine. So if you want to have a card slid at church, there's a cash jar in the back. You can go to seattleatheist.church and hit the donate button. So all that. And if you make it recurring, then it's even easier for us to do our planning. But I just wanted to mention that because we had our board meeting today. And the way we do it here for the people who are new is we have a talk, and then afterwards we circle up and we discuss. And every member is invited to give a talk. So the next thing is in like December 11th, we're having a planning meeting. So for those of you, please think ahead if you have a talk in you, what you would like to talk about. We'll get you on the calendar, but you're not required to give a talk. Today we have a talk by Mickey. Well, come on up and get started.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk today about why we believe what we believe. I want to start by defending the idea of belief. Now, this might shock or startle some of you who are thinking, this is an atheist church. We're a bunch of free thinkers. Why would we be preaching about belief? Well, I have a secret for you. We all have beliefs. In fact, you probably have the belief that we shouldn't have beliefs because beliefs are this thing that religion uses to fool us. Problematic there. And the reason we have beliefs is that beliefs have predictive value. At least ideally. Beliefs are models of reality. I'm going to give you an observation. Here is a book. It has hit the lectern. Hits the lectern. Hits the lectern. What's going to happen the next time I let go of this book?
It's going to hit the lectern.
Nope. Beliefs are predictions. They're not always true. Now, I set that one up a little bit. But the fact is, what you were actually basing that on was your belief that objects fall under gravity. I could have falsified that belief equally well by that. Didn't hit the lectern. I could falsify the belief that it falls under gravity by having a string tied to that light. And when I let go of it, it swings wildly back and forth in the air. Ooh la, magic trick, right? Beliefs are not reality. The map is not the territory. Beliefs are simplifications about reality that have predictive value. I read a fascinating article a couple of weeks ago about research indicating that consciousness itself, this thing that we experience as having a me and an I in my head that thinks and does and reacts to the world, is a function of beliefs. That actually the way consciousness works on a neurological level is we predict future sensory input. And then when the incoming sensory input is different, we notice that and adjust the internal prediction. And that process of noticing dissonance between our predictions and reality is consciousness. If I can find a link, I'll post it. It's a really great article. Anyway, so we have beliefs, even though they're easily falsified, even though they're not actual reality. We still have beliefs. And the reason is that reality is too complicated. We can't actually maneuver through the world in ways that accomplish our goals if we're trying to do all of it from reasoning it out from the motions of quarks and protons and neutrons and electrons and atoms and molecules and etc. We have to simplify things to a level where our brains can process them. And if that's the only reason we had beliefs, that would be a pretty self-justifying, pretty rational, useful reason to have beliefs. But there are other reasons we have beliefs. For example, we have beliefs because they provide us with emotional comfort. I believe that I live in a country of the free. Thank you, I'm glad that a few people laughed at that one. I believe that my children are not only smarter, but better looking and nicer than the average child. Hi, children. I believe that I'm a good person. I believe that I care about the poor. Please raise your hand if you spoke to a poor person in the last week in a warm and friendly way. Please raise your hand if you gave more than $10 to a poor person in the last month. Please raise your hand if you made a charitable contribution totaling at least $1,000 to a poor person in the last year. Yeah. But we all like to think that we care about the poor, because good people care about the poor and we're good people. And it gives us emotional comfort. Or for a more obvious example, why do people believe in the afterlife? Well, because I know that Great Aunt Mabel actually still is somewhere being happy and looking down and smiling, and she's glad to see me wearing this heirloom pearl necklace she gave me. Because I really miss Great Aunt Mabel, and knowing that she still is there and sees and is glad that I have this necklace makes me feel good about the fact that I modified the will when no one was looking to give it to me instead of for my bitch brother, William. Okay? We hold beliefs sometimes because they give us emotional comfort. Is that a bad thing? Emotional comfort's a good thing. Holding a belief because it gives us emotional comfort?
It's a risky thing.
Word for word what I was going to say. Exactly. It is a risky thing. It's something to be aware of. Not because we should stop doing it because emotional comfort is bad, but because we should be aware that it imposes a bias on our belief-forming systems. Seeking emotional comfort gives us a motivation to hold a belief, whether or not it has predictive value. Okay? So there's utility in getting emotional comfort from a belief. But there's also utility in predictive value, and they can come into conflict. How about this third one? Social conformity. Is social conformity good?
Sometimes.
I see shaking heads here. If I suddenly stopped and took my shirt off, how many of you would continue attending to what I was saying with exactly the same level of emotion? Thanks, ladies. If I showed up wearing
You're a poor example of fashion social conformity.
Poor example of fashion social conformity, yeah. If I showed up wearing a fireman's helmet on my head, which is harmless, the only reason not to wear a fireman's helmet on my head is social conformity. But if I showed up wearing a fireman's helmet on my head, it is likely that some of you would be distracted from my message. Okay? Social conformity serves a valuable purpose of telling people what signals they can safely ignore and what signals they should attend to. Okay? Social conformity has other advantages. For example, the fact that I am not painting my skin green.
This time.
Thanks, ladies! The fact that I am not painting my skin green lets you know that I am responsive to your social conformity concerns, which means I'm also less likely to violate any other social norms, like running up and grabbing you, or taking the money out of your wallet and buying myself a latte with it, or suddenly bursting out screaming.
I think you meant orange.
Painting your skin orange.
The fact that I'm not painting my skin orange tells you that I'm not. Can I make a political speech? No, I can't make a political speech. The fact that I'm painting my skin orange tells you nothing at all in this election period. Thank you. Social conformity is also a value. And again, it's a risky basis for a belief. Okay? If I remember the percentages here. I believe it's 40% of Americans believe that dinosaurs and humans walked around on the earth at the same time. 60% of Americans believe in a supreme being of some sort. The percentages of people who believe things that demonstrably just ain't so is really frighteningly high, especially in America. Social conformity, at least in America, is an actively bad mechanism for finding beliefs with predictive value. And yet, social conformity is a value of belief. It's one of the possible values to be gained from beliefs. I'm going to categorize all three of these. Examples of utility. Utilitarianism is the ethical principle that the greatest good for the greatest number defines what's moral. The flaw of it being it doesn't define how to measure the absolute metric of good. So greatest good, comparative values of good become quite tricky, and utilitarians spend a lot of time arguing over that. I'm not a utilitarian, although it's certainly an appealingly simplistic philosophy. But I do think that there is a place for looking at whether something works. I am, if you will, a pragmatist. And I like my beliefs to pass the utility test. Do they actually help me accomplish my goals? And the main ways to help me accomplish my goals are predictive value, emotional comfort, and social conformity, roughly in that order. But where do those beliefs come from in the first place that I'm applying this utilitarian test to? Well, beliefs come from a number of places. They can come from observation. You believed that this book would hit the lectern because it had done so in the past. You had 3 observations of it hitting the lectern. That's a perfectly reasonable basis for believing it will the next time. You've all, even the youngest of you, have seen the sun come up in the morning thousands of times. It's a really solid bet that the sun's going to come up in the morning tomorrow morning, right? Is it absolutely certain?
What is?
Regardless of cloud cover, is it absolutely certain that the sun will rise in the east in the morning tomorrow?
No.
I can think of at least one mechanism, which is a wandering black hole goes through the sun and eats it all up. Boom, there is no sun to rise. Or, similarly, a wandering black hole goes through Earth and eats it up. Wandering black holes are kind of like a magic wand. They can pretty much falsify any macroscopic observation you want by just obliterating the things that would be doing the observing or being observed.
Deus ex black hole.
Deus ex black hole, yes, or black hole ex machina, depending. But it's still a useful belief to believe that the sun will come up in the morning. It's got high predictive value, it's got high social conformity, and it's honestly pretty emotionally comforting. I'd be a little nervous if I thought that, if I went to bed every night going, oh God, what if the sun doesn't come up tomorrow morning? In fact, I know it's not just me with that fear. Otherwise, we wouldn't have solstice rituals that involve staying up all night and keeping fires burning to make sure that the sun comes back up after the longest night. Okay? Why do we hold those beliefs? Why do we ever, to put another way, why do we ever veer from only holding beliefs with high utility? Well, some of it is social pressure. I've read articles about people who are intending to vote for Hillary Clinton in this election and are careful not to tell anyone, including their spouse, this because they live in a red state and they would be threatened or assaulted for stating that they intended to vote for a political candidate. Now, they still hold the belief that Hillary Clinton is the right candidate, but they're certainly not going to say it publicly, right? And they're also likely to avoid other actions like canvassing for Hillary Clinton that would be otherwise reasonably predicted from that belief. How about childhood indoctrination? Yes?
That was a 5-minute.
Oh, thank you. Can I run a little bit over?
Oh, you can definitely, yeah.
I don't know if it's a hard limit or a guideline.
No, it's a guideline.
Do we have 1 hour or 2
as
hours
long as we
today?
have 15 minutes
All
or
right.
so to talk, you can keep going.
I'm going to run a little long today.
Okay.
All right. I have a book here that my son, Miles, who is 6, picked up at a book sale yesterday. It's called Fireball Tim's Big Book of Wacky Rides. Don't buy it.
Daddy, that's not part of the title.
And my oldest, it should be. And my oldest daughter picked it up today, opened
What?
to
I don't
the...
get a name?
And my oldest daughter, Wednesday, who is very capable of standing up for herself, and I appreciate that, opened it up to the first page today and was outraged. The first page has a picture of a vehicle made from a fire alarm with 3 ladybugs sitting on it. And the text says, "The 4-alarmster. In an emergency, these bugs know how to get things done quick. Not all ladybugs are ladies."
That's what I said.
Now, I noticed something interesting here. I noticed that several people in the audience who present as female went, "What?" And all the men just sort of sat there going, "Huh." Guys, be pissed off at this too. Not all ladybugs are ladies. Now, that's a factually true statement, but it's not the point the author was making. There's an implication there. Ladies can't get things done quickly. It's not stated. The book never says women aren't competent at doing things rapidly. The book doesn't say ladies are constrained by social convention to the point where they can't be effective in an emergency. But it's right there in the implications. These bugs know how to get things done quick because not all ladybugs are ladies. So, if my 6-year-old reads this, he may come away with the belief that ladies are ineffectual in emergencies. If my daughter reads this, she may come away with the belief that she is ineffectual in an emergency. I'm not thrilled with either of these outcomes, by the way. The only reason we're not getting rid of this book is because it's a wonderful opportunity to talk to our children about gender bias in books and the fact that children's books go through no sort of mimetic review at all because children and adults both buy them based on the wacky cover and not based on reading the contents and going, "Ew." Okay? But this is far from the only children's book that has that kind of toxic mimetics. If any of you are any of you familiar with the book The Rainbow Fish?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't buy it. Read it sometime, and then compare it to the Kurt Vonnegut story, Harrison Bergeron, to which I'm indebted to Eva for remembering the title. Harrison Bergeron is a story by Kurt Vonnegut about a dystopian future where, in order that everyone may be equal, everyone with an out-of-the-ordinary ability is handicapped. Graceful people have springs fastened between their knees and their elbows so they can't move gracefully because they're always fighting the springs. Strong people like me have weights locked onto their wrists and ankles so they are already carrying a heavy weight so they can't lift more than smaller people. Smart people have a helmet that blares a sound, a staticky noise into their ears randomly every few seconds to interrupt their thinking because now everyone is equal. And people read that story, they go, "Oh God, what a horrible dystopia." But it's exactly the same message that's being preached by the very popular children's book, Rainbow Fish, which is about how a fish with beautiful rainbow scales should rip them off and give them to other fish so as to be liked. Because no one likes rainbow fish when rainbow fish has all the pretty scales. But once rainbow fish rips them off one by one and hands them to other fish, then everyone loves rainbow fish. This is a children's book. We give this to our children with pretty iridescent printing to shape their behavior. It's a beautiful book. It's got watercolor paintings with iridescent insets for rainbow fish's scales. And the message is Harrison Bergeron was describing a utopia, not a dystopia. Okay? Some of where we get our beliefs is what we are fed as children, childhood indoctrination. Don't believe me? Look at the rate at which adults follow the same religion and political party as their parents. Both religion and political party are hereditary because they are learned by childhood indoctrination. I'm a Democrat, my dad was a Democrat, my grandpa was a Democrat, my great-grandpa was a Democrat, and my great-great-grandpa was a Whig. You know? I'm approximating there. I don't actually know the history of political parties that well.
A flip-flop somewhere in this generation.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Couple.
But the reality is, people have beliefs very often because that's what they were told to have as children. Okay? Often by books like this. There's another source of beliefs that just ain't so. And I've categorized it as neural wiring. This is stuff that human brains just appear to be predisposed to. Okay? Selection bias. There's a reason that many, many people have a story about dreaming about their grandma and then waking up and calling her to make sure she was okay and she was dead. Okay? Or dreaming about a fire and then the next day their kitchen caught on fire and the house almost burned down. And the reason is that people dream about fires and grandmas a lot. But they don't remember the ones that aren't followed by their grandma dying or their kitchen burning. Selection bias is a human trait. People do it. But it's a really good thing to remember whenever someone is making an extraordinary claim about the predictiveness of their dreams or their fears or their thoughts in the real world. Because people discount the times when it wasn't followed by a matching real-world event. But when it is followed by a matching real-world event, that's a very dramatic, memorable occasion. So they remember it. So they form the belief that their dreams are predictive. Is the belief that your dreams are predictive good, bad, or indifferent?
Bad. Pretty unuseful.
Since dreams aren't predictive, and there actually have been studies of this, dreams aren't predictive. In case anyone out there was wondering whether dreams are predictive, they're not. You're not a special snowflake with precognitive dreams. Okay? Since dreams aren't predictive, believing that they are is going to cause either anxiety or overconfidence. Neither of those is terribly good for you. Okay? If you cancel your plane flight every time you have a dream that your plane is going to crash, because you read about someone who dreamed their plane was going to crash, canceled their plane flight, and then the plane crashed, how many people the night before a flight are likely to dream about a plane crash? But you know, the ones who dream about a plane crash and then get on the plane, they're dead. We don't hear about them. And the ones who dream about a plane crash, who don't dream about a plane crash, or who dream about a plane crash and the plane doesn't crash, they're not going to tell anyone, wow, I dreamed about a plane crash, but then it didn't crash. Okay, me too. Right? But the one time in very, 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 very rarely where someone dreams about a plane crash, cancels the flight because they're so nervous or for some unrelated reason, and then the plane crashes, like, holy crap, my dream predicted the future and saved my life, guys, you gotta hear about this! Well, if you dream about a plane crash, if you believe that, if you form your belief about predictive dreams based on that, you're gonna cancel a lot of plane flights that you don't need to cancel. Eva, you had a question?
I'll save it for discussion.
Okay. What about consistency bias? We form beliefs about ourselves based on what we've said. There's a great experiment they did. You go up to people and say, are you a charitable person? Hey, how many people here are charitable people? Raise your hand if you're a charitable person. Come on, don't be shy. If you're a charitable person, raise your hand. Wonderful! I'm collecting money for starving children in Africa, and I'd love it if you guys could make a contribution. Turns out that almost everyone, I'm really surprised, a lot of you are much more immune to manipulation than the average human being. Because statistically I should have gotten like 80-90% agreement that you're charitable people, maybe 100%. Turns out if you ask people, are you a charitable person? And they say yes, they are considerably more likely to give you money when you then ask for it. Because they just said they were charitable. And humans have a very strong consistency bias. Which is one of the reasons why it's so dangerous to sit silently by while somebody is, let's say, making a sexist joke at work. Because they make the sexist joke, you don't say anything, you've just established in your mind that you're a little bit sexist. You're okay with that.
In their mind, too.
And in their mind, too.
In all businesses.
It's actually a lot better to say, I'm not comfortable with that joke. Now, you've made a public statement that you're not sexist. In fact, you're opposed to sexism, which means when someone in another meeting is like, I'd really like to promote Susan, but she's just so flighty. You'll speak up and go, I've never once in my career heard someone describe a man as flighty. I'd like to ask you to reconsider whether that's actually a legitimate critique of Susan's work abilities. The reason I'm naming some of these neural wiring things is both because knowing about them helps you not let them manipulate your beliefs, and knowing about them helps you manipulate your beliefs in ways that you approve of. We need to be wise consumers of our own brains. Zombie, okay. We need to be aware that we are our own unreliable narrator. Okay? A couple weeks back, I got a bad viral infection of some sort and got delirious. Started seeing things that weren't there and believing things that weren't true, and etc. And spent a couple days in the hospital while they eliminated, encephalitis and meningitis and stroke and all the other really scary causes. And finally came up with, it's viral, you're fine, go home. But before I did, I was walking around the hospital floor one night because I was kind of stir crazy and hated being in there because I'd been there for 2 days and I was just bored out of my skull. And my brain still wasn't quite back on even keel. Because remember, no matter how good your software is, it's running on a chunk of meat. Now I'm a professional programmer. I write software for a living. I write software on silicon, really, really reliable silicon. And even there, if something's really mission critical, we'll run it on multiple computers and compare the results, right? Because even silicon occasionally flips a bit because of a cosmic ray or whatever. That's why we have parity bits and checksums and such, right? We're running this software on a lump of meat, non-temperature controlled meat with unreliable supplies of energy. And we're trying to think with this. If you wonder why we sometimes have beliefs that lack utility, it's because we're running on meat that no one designed, that evolved over millions and millions and millions of years in environments completely different from this, and we're trying to do abstract reasoning with this thing. Okay? And I'm walking down the hall with my lump of meat occasionally misfiring and telling me that things that just aren't so are true. And I walk past a room, and there's a nurse behind one of those life privacy curtains they have, and she tosses something into the garbage. And my brain says, that's a human finger. I had the belief in my head that the nurse had just tossed a human finger into the garbage. And I stopped and I looked at that and I thought, you know what? In a horror movie, that would be a human finger. But this isn't a horror movie, it's a hospital in Seattle. In fact, there is no hospital in the real world where a nurse would take a biohazardous piece of material like a human finger and toss it freehand into a garbage can like they're going for a basket. Score! So I tested that belief against other beliefs I have, like most nurses are professional in their behavior, like biohazard and biocontamination risks are taken very seriously in modern hospitals. And I concluded that, in fact, I had a false belief. That belief that the nurse had tossed a human finger into the garbage can was false. So I went and I found another nurse and I said, come sit and talk with me, I'm having disturbing thoughts. And the nurse sat and talked with me and it helped a lot because I had someone else to check them with. One of the good things you can do if you have a belief that you're not sure about is talk to people about it. Because, if multiple people agree that that's kind of a crazy thought and it probably wasn't true, you can probably relax about it a little. And if they say, no, actually that sounds worrisome, let's go talk to the head nurse. Well, you can talk to the head nurse. Here's your hand.
Did you check it was a finger?
Nope.
Why not?
Because I didn't need to and it was someone else's room. It would have been an inappropriate intrusion on their privacy. And the chance that it was actually a human finger was so infinitesimally small that it wasn't worth disrupting their privacy and the nurse's privacy.
Might have extended your hospital stay if you would.
This is certainly true, although if it had, that probably would have been a good sign that it needed to be extended. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. Okay?
You allowed social conformity to affect your
I did.
decision-making.
I allowed social conformity to affect my decision making. Actually,
Which was utilitarian.
It was.
You didn't have to stay in the hospital much longer.
it's true. In fact, social conformity is one of the great measures of whether you're delirious or not. Do the people around you think you're delirious? How about sunk costs? Once we invest in something, we put disproportionate weight on preserving the investment we've already made. Fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error, so-called because it's actually something everyone does all the time, is that when you are breaking the speed limit, it's because you're late for a really important meeting and you could get fired if you miss it. And when that jerk breaks the speed limit, it's because he does not care about other drivers and he just wants to get there ahead of you. And we all do it all the time. I'm raising my voice because I'm upset, but you're raising your voice because you like to yell at people, jerk. Okay? The fundamental attribution error is actually behind a lot of our social beliefs. Because it's such a powerful force. It's so strongly ingrained in the human mind. There are literally books upon books that have been written about these cognitive errors. There are also books upon books that have been written about logical fallacies that get used to change people's beliefs. For example, the appeal to consequences. If global warming were true, then we would have to immediately stop driving our hydrocarbon-fueled cars, and our economy would collapse. Therefore, global warming is false. That's appeal to consequences. No, global warming is true or false regardless of whether we would have to stop driving all of our hydrocarbon-fueled cars. Global warming's truth value is completely independent of the effects of global warming's truth value. All right? And yet, a lot of times, whether we're debating with ourselves about what belief to hold, or debating with other people trying to change their beliefs, or they're trying to change our beliefs, people will use arguments like that that are convincing to the human brain, even though they are dangerously false. Since books have been written about this, I'm not going to try to tell you all about them. I am going to say that informing yourself, educating yourself about the cognitive biases that humans are susceptible to, about the rhetorical techniques that people use to manipulate your beliefs, and about the sources of your beliefs, will really help you to control your beliefs for utility. I had an entire other section of this talk, but I'll save it for the next time. Thanks, everyone.